Okay guys, I think we're going to get started, so we have time to look at a few of the activities in the worksheets at the end. So welcome to today's employability ESOL class. I'm sure most of you know by now, but we do these every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 AM. Today we'll be looking at adjectives. This Thursday we'll be looking at adverbs. And this employability ESOL sessions have all been provided by the Accelerate Employment Project and the Watch Centre. So we'll get started now. Okay, so today, like I said, we're looking at adjectives, and our learning objectives will be to understand what an adjective is, to identify the adjectives in a sentence, and to be able to write comparative and superlative adjectives. Okay, if any of that doesn't make sense, then don't worry, we're going to go through it all in each stage. And if you're already quite familiar with these different terms and types of adjectives, then use this as a quick revision session just to remind yourself. It's always good to keep practicing. Okay, so what is an adjective? An adjective describes the noun. It also provides more information to the sentence. So if you remember from our first week when we looked at nouns, a noun is a person, a place, or a thing. So in our sentence, when we find a noun, our adjective is going to describe that person, place, or thing, and find out more about the sentence and the object. Okay, so now for this session, we're going to look at adjectives in 8 different categories. Sounds like a lot, but it'll be quite quick. So we're going to be looking at colour, at sound, at animals, at places, people, things, shapes, and sizes. Okay, so an adjective as a descriptive word can describe all of these things and uses all these categories to add further description to a noun. Okay, so here is our first group. What is an adjective? And we're going to look at colour, so as our first category. So now if we've got to keep in mind that an adjective describes the noun. So when we look at this short fragment of a sentence here, red bus, and we've got the picture here of the red double-decker bus, we look and find that our noun is the bus, because in this bus is the place or a thing, and then we look at the word before to see how that noun is described by an adjective, which is the colour red. So the colour red is our adjective. Next, you can see that we've got the different category of sound. So we have a group of people. So people is our noun, and the way their sound has been described is loud. So loud would be our adjective. It's a way of describing the noun. Next, we have the category of animal. So we have a wild lion. So lion would be our noun, and wild would be our adjective. Okay. And then we have place. So we have a photo, I think, from the Central Station in New York, so train station. So we have busy station. So station would be our noun because it is a place, and busy would be our adjective because it is describing the place. So busy station. And the same goes for our category of people. So here we have a waitress, which is our noun, and friendly is describing how she is or what she is like. So our people, this category description is friendly, our adjective there. And next we have things. So the category of things. So we have a shiny laptop right here, and laptop would be our noun because it is a thing, and our adjective, which describes the noun, is shiny. So that is one way of describing a thing. And then next, we've got the category of shapes. So here we have a clock, and that would be our noun, and whereas round, which is its shape, is our adjective. So round would be the adjective. And then next we have sizes, the category of sizes. So here we have a hospital. So hospital is our noun because it is a place, and large would be our adjective because large is a size that is describing how big or how small the hospital is. Okay, so now try and think about these categories when we look at this next sentence. Like always, first we're going to identify our nouns in the sentence. Okay, so the small cafe is busy on Saturdays. Now, if we remember that a noun is a person, a place, or a thing, we can work out what our noun is. Oh, and just to quickly remind you, we do have a Zoom chat. So if you have any questions or any answers, do type them in this chat. Okay, I'll just put a message up so that's there. But we'll look at this sentence now. The small cafe is busy on Saturdays. So we're looking for a person, a place, or a thing for our noun. So the small cafe, the cafe is a place, isn't it? So that would be one of our nouns, is busy on a Saturday. So Saturday or Saturdays is a thing. So they would also be our noun. You could say they're almost proper nouns as well with the capital letter. But anyway, so now we found our nouns, we need to find our adjectives. Now, our adjectives describe the nouns. So if we first look at cafe, what words do we have to describe cafe? If we look at the start, we have the small. So small would indicate size. So remember, this comes from our size category. So small would be one of our adjectives. And then the small cafe is busy on Saturdays. Now busy is describing the place, isn't it? Like one of our other categories. So this would be our other adjective. And so they're quite easy to identify in sentences. You're just looking for the word that describes the noun. So fairly straightforward to find. Okay, now we're going to look at different types of adjectives. You can get comparative and superlative. So we'll first look at the comparative with the ER ending. So really easy way to identify a comparative adjective. Just look for the ER on the sentence, or you could even add it to one of these root word adjectives. So we have big, long, and smart. So to make these comparative adjectives, we add the ER onto the end of the word. Oh, I'm sorry, Samar, if you can't hear me. Is your audio on? Because my audio is definitely on and not muted. Maybe it's on your end that you can't hear us if the volume controls aren't working. Don't worry, this is recorded though, so I can send you a recording at the end of the sentence. At the end of the session. So don't worry. Sorry guys, we'll continue in 1 second. I'll just reply to Samar on the chat. Okay, so sorry guys, back to this. So comparative ER endings. So here we have our root words. We have big, long, and smart. And if you add the ER onto the end, we get our comparative adjective. So now, to understand how this ER changes the meaning of the adjective and adds more information to the sentence, we have an example sentence here to look at how that is done. So first, like always, we're going to look for our nouns. So the shop is busy on Fridays, but busier on Saturdays. Now, the shop is a place, so we should straight away be able to be like, that's one of our nouns. And then is busy on Fridays, another nouns, but busier on Saturdays, and Saturdays are also our nouns. And now we have to look for our adjectives. So the shop is busy on Friday, but busier on Saturdays. So busy would be our adjective, and so would busier. But as you can see, because this is a comparative adjective, there's a difference between these two adjectives, but they're from the same root word of busy. We have this ER ending. So with this ER ending, it can mean more than. So you would say the shop is busy on Fridays, but busier on Saturdays. So the on the end of the adjectives gives it the meaning of more than. So it's not just busy, it's more than busy, it's busier. That makes sense. Oh dear. But yeah, so that is a comparative adjective. So next we have a superlative adjective. And so for this, we add the est onto the end of an adjective. So we have the same root words here, big, long, and smart. And we've added the est onto the end. So big, long, and smart have become biggest, longest, and smartest. Okay, so by the est, we mean something that is the most. So you would say, that is the biggest cake I've ever eaten, or which would mean that it was the most, rather than just big, which could be comparatively a smaller size. Okay, so here's a sentence. We're going to do the same thing for this sentence, just to identify our nouns. So it's pretty much the same sentence, so we can identify our nouns. Are the shop is busy on Fridays, but it is the busiest on Saturdays. Okay, so those are our nouns. Now we're going to look for our adjectives. The shop is busy. So we have our adjective again on Fridays, but it is the busiest on Saturdays. Okay, so busy and busiest, you can see the difference. We have this EST ending, which means the most. So the shop is busy on Fridays, but it is the busiest, so the most busy, on Saturdays. So that's how we can tell the difference between these two types of adjectives. So now we've done a quick overview of what an adjective is. We've looked at what an adjective is, where an adjective is a word that, let's find it, here we go, is a word that describes a noun. So remember, you look for your noun and then you look for the adjective, which tells you more about the noun. So that is what an adjective is. And then we have identified an adjective in a sentence. So here we've been able to work out where the adjectives are in the sentence and how they describe the nouns. And we've also looked at the differences between comparative and superlative adjectives. So really easy way to remember this is, for comparative, you have the ER ending. Look for that on the end of the adjective. And for superlative, we have the est ending. So you'll be looking for this est on the end of an adjective. Okay, so that's all quite straightforward. I've just seen we've had a few late arrivals, don't worry. I can go over this session with you another time, and I do have a recording of this session if that would be helpful to you, but I can discuss that with you later on. For now, we can go to our lesson checklist and tick off adjectives. So remember, we've done nouns, verbs, and adjectives, so we can tick these off. So you've attended these. Thursday at 11 o'clock, we'll be looking at adverbs. So if you would like to know more about them and be able to tick that off your checklist, then do attend on Thursday at 11. Now you've had through email, you've had the adjective worksheets that have come through email, but if you're on the Accelerate project, we are also in the process of sending the ESOL work booklet out to you with all the worksheets in, so you'll be able to work through them on paper if you have that. So if you'd like to look at your adjective worksheets, I'll just do a quick overview on what are on these. So for the first page, we just have a quick explanation of what an adjective is, what we've covered in this session. An adjective describes the noun and it provides more information to the sentence. And a few example sentences to go through. Those ones were quite straightforward, so I'll leave those for you to go through on your own. And then we've got the categories. We've got sounds, places, animals, people, colours, things, shapes and sizes. These are all the different categories we looked at earlier for different types of adjectives that there can be. And here there are different examples within those categories, which you will then match to one of these words. So for the first one, we've got stone as our noun, and we know this is in the things adjective category. So you would go to these categories and you would look for things and you'd see what they have. So they're sharp, rough and shiny, and you will put one of these words before adjectives before the noun. So sharp, rough or shiny could go, I have a very sharp stone. So you'd write sharp before stone, and then you'd continue on and do the exercise like that for all the different nouns in categories matching to these categories. Okay, and then the next page, this one's also quite self-explanatory. You just get writing a sentence about the picture of what the person is doing for work. So here we've got a delivery driver, and you're just going to write a sentence here about describing what you see. Then we've got another activity here where you're going to write an adjective describing places in your local neighbourhood. So we'll start with the park is. So now we've not got options of what adjectives to use, so maybe it would help you to think about the park or these places near you and how you would describe them, how you would describe the noun. So if you think about the park is, what could a park be? A park could be big, a park could be large. So you would write that, well, that's a bit thin, but you would write your word for that. So you could say a park is large, okay? Or you could say big or small or spacious, lots of different words. You're going to just go through and do this. So you could be like, the supermarket is. So you could say the supermarket is busy or empty or small. Or you could even try and use one of your comparative or superlative adjectives, and you could write the supermarket is bigger than the library. You could try something like that. And then we have a little explanation on these comparative and superlative adjectives. And as you can see, we've got the er and the s ending, and this just shows how these root words can change. So we've got big, and big would become bigger, and bigger would become biggest. So the slice of cake was big, but Jane's slice of cake was bigger, but the birthday person had the biggest slice of cake. So you can see how that adjective can be used differently. The same goes for long, and you've got this longer, and then you've got this longest. And now normally you would just be adding the er and the est, but sometimes the root word has to change. So the word adjective good, it would have to become better, because gooder isn't the word, it doesn't make grammatical sense. So sometimes you get these irregular adjectives like that, and better would become best. So you can still see we've got the er and the st ending. The only difference is our root word, which is good. You can't use more and in the same sentence. So for example, the more green the book would not make sense. So just by putting the and more than in a sentence wouldn't work, because that sound and letters are your more than for the sentence. Okay, and then here we just have a quick activity where you'll be able to turn these adjectives here into comparative and superlative adjectives, and you would just be adding the er and the est. Do use a dictionary to help you if you're not quite sure, because there might be other letters in the mix, like you might have an I, but in general, then they normally all follow this pattern. So you could get smart here, and smart would become smarter, and the superlative form would become smartest. Okay, so you'd just be going through and writing it a lot more neater and easier, because you won't be doing this on the computer. But here you go. And then here we just have some few sentences which you are going to be identifying the verbs and the adjectives. So remember to circle the verbs and underline the adjectives. So shall we go through the first couple as a group? Here we have the chef put the hot plates onto the long table. So like with any sentence, it's always a good idea to look for our nouns first, even though the activity hasn't asked us to. So we're looking for the person, the place or thing in the sentence. So the chef, that's a person, isn't it? So that's a noun. Put the hot plates are a thing. So onto the long table, and the table is a place and a thing. So these are our nouns. Okay, so now we're going to look for the verbs. So the verb is the action word. It tells us what the person is doing. So the chef is our person, our main noun in the sentence. So what is he doing? He is putting the hot plates onto the table. So put would be our verb. So we would circle that. Okay. And next we are looking, now we can look for adjectives. Now we know what our nouns and verbs are. So the chef put the hot plates onto the long table. So we're looking for the words that describe the nouns, which are the adjectives. So the chef put the hot plates. So hot would be one of our adjectives because it is describing the plates onto the long table, and long would be the adjective in this sentence. So if we have another look at the next sentence, which is I have developed my communication skills from working at a busy call centre where I provide excellent customer service. So I have developed my communication skills from working at a busy call centre where I provide excellent customer service. Now this is quite a long sentence, so we have to break it down a bit, but we need to look for our nouns. So let's look for our nouns. I have developed my communication skills. So communication skills would be our nouns from working at a busy call centre. Call centre is a place, so it would be our other noun, where I provide excellent customer service. Now customer service is one of our abstract nouns, if you remember that from a previous session that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. Next we're looking for our verb. So our verb is the doing word, it is the action word. So we know that this sentence, because it starts with I, is about the person narrating the sentence, person talking. I have developed. Now developed would be a verb because it is an action word. It shows improvement. My communication skills from working, and this ing is also our verb because it lets us know that that was in present tense. That person is currently working at a call centre. Okay, so now we're looking for our adjectives, which are our main interest in this sentence. So I have developed my communication skills from working at a busy. So there we go, we've got one. Busy call centre, because busy describes the noun, the place, the call centre, where I provide excellent customer service. And customer service is another noun. So we look before it and we've got this word excellent, and excellent is an adjective and describes the noun. So you can see how quite simple these sentences can be once you take the time. Just remember to look for the nouns first, then the verb, and then underline the adjective. And you can make your way through these sentences. I think, yes, there were 9 sentences to go through. But these are the worksheets. If you do have any issues with them, do drop me an email. You all have my email address, so do let me know if you're struggling or you don't understand what to do on the worksheets. Okay, so thank you for joining us, guys. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so we'll finish off now. So if you're around, do join us. Our next lesson will be about adverbs, and that will be at 11 o'clock this Thursday on Zoom, and I will send the links to you via email tomorrow. So thank you for joining us today, guys, and I hope you understand adjectives a little bit more now. And I'll see you on Thursday for adverbs. Okay, thank you for joining.